This is where you actually become the person you want to become to see the reality you want to see in life. This is from a personal example. So let's go into story time. I am 20 years old. I'm in Puerto Rico in the US Army in one of these bases, and at the time I had really poor ACT scores and grades, and I wanted to be a realtor and I wanted to become a sergeant. And so right there, I'm in Puerto Rico going through sergeant school. They're kicking people out left and right. We had unbelievable amounts of hours of sitting and lectures and death by PowerPoint. And I'm sitting there with my notebook. This is before I knew anything about the law of attraction, manifestation, or anything like that. But I knew what I wanted. And so I would write down on a piece of paper, I am William Stewart. I am 21 years old. At the time I was 20. I am a realtor. I am a university student. I am a sergeant in the US Army. I am William Stewart. And I would write that down over and over and over and over and over again. Mind you, during that period of time, what happens next is I actually start seeing people get kicked out of the sergeant school. So they're seeing that it's showing that it's pretty difficult. So I'm sitting there not thinking I'm going to become a sergeant in any way, shape, or form. The university of my choice actually sent me the rejection letter as I was at the school, so I'm feeling absolutely worthless. And I'm pretty sure just after I left the sergeant school, I failed my real estate exam. And that didn't stop me though. I continued to write that I am William Stewart. I am. And eventually, come the next year, 2022, so it's actually 2020, and in 2023 actually, everything that I had written down had come to fruition. Now, it took a little bit of time because I didn't have a definite date, and this is before I knew anything about affirmations, but this is the most powerful thing that I've actually seen the results happen in my life from, is saying that I am William Stewart, and they're all just I am statements, because defining who you are creates the reality that you have. You never really outwork your self-image, and so what we're doing is creating a completely new self-image. I started off with the I am statements, and I started off with I am William Stewart because I knew it was a true statement. And then I am X age because I knew I would eventually become that age. And then so I inserted the age that I was going to be. And then I would write all of the I am affirmations that I want. And then I am William Stewart at the very, very end. And like I said, I wrote this down over countless amounts of time. And you have 30 days. So for me, I was spending about 30 days at the sergeant school, and we'd sit down, we'd have death by PowerPoint. Anytime I just dozed off, I'd be writing that over and over and over and over again. And what I found is I started doing that with different notebooks, or just whenever I'm sitting down and I just have extra time, I just write down my I ams and who I want to become. And the reason that any of this really works is because we tend to have a habit of doing one thing. This is a timeline. And this is you in the center. Now, imagine you right now is basically the only thing that really exists. But what we like to do is go into the past and take that version of ourselves and for some reason try to apply it into our future. And so we take our past image of ourselves and allow it to define where we're headed. And what you're doing with your I am affirmations is deciding who you actually want to be in the future, right? So that you can draw upon this image of you so you can move in the direction of your future, your desired future. If you're always drawing from the past, your past has the limitation of just not being what you want it to be. But if you decide to pull from the future to draw from your future, it only makes sense that you start acting more like the person you intend to become. And instead of defining yourself as this person that has done this or been there, saw this or done that, grow a nostalgia for the future so that your future you can define all of your actions and your habits so you can actually get there. And so what's happening here is I'm saying who I want to be instead of who I was. Because who I was a kid that had terrible grades, wasn't really going to make it to sergeant school, didn't know very much about the Army at the time. Honestly, I didn't. My past had no validating terms to say that my future would end up at me being one of the youngest sergeants in the U.S. Army, or getting my real estate license, or anything like that, because I had failed my real estate exam multiple times. I poor grades, wasn't doing too good at the sergeant school. Just didn't make sense. But if I drew from my future to determine that I want to be this person and I can see what this person acts like and is like, then I can become more like them rather than drawing from my past. And that's just one habit that we decide to do. Now, what you can start doing is you can do that in every aspect of your life. Instead of drawing from the past all the time to determine your future, you can decide to say, hey, what is it I want to start acting like in the future? What do I want my future to look like? And as you start building this image of what your future looks like, you draw inspiration from there to create your reality. Because if you're drawing from the past, you're stuck in old habitual ways of acting and you're not going to get new results. But the second that you decide to start pulling from your future, the one that you imagine, because let's be honest, right? Sitting where you are now, right now, I know we have a really good, strong habit of pulling from the past, and it looks really, really clear, right? The past really did happen. But if you look at, that's really terrible handwriting, but if you look at it really objectively in your future, neither of them really exist in the very present moment. What exists is what you're drawing from your memory, and the other one you're drawing from your imagination. Now, your subconscious mind, which dictates about 95% of all the actions that you take, your habitual way of thinking, cannot tell the difference between reality and an imagination. So it might be beneficial to start imagining your future or visualizing your future instead of visualizing your past when you're trying to get a desired result. Because if your past doesn't hold favorable action, then your future won't hold favorable action if you draw from your past in order to determine your future. But if you determine your future self, for example, let's say at the time when I wanted to become a realtor, I didn't go from my past and say, nope, I failed the real estate exam 3 times, and this is how I failed for the last 3 times. So therefore, I'm going to make sure that I don't pass next time by doing the exact same actions. Rather, what I did was I said, hey, the person that would pass this real estate exam would have to do all of these things. It would actually be unreasonable if this version of me that passes the real estate exam didn't pass had I done X, Y, Z, X, Y, Z, X, Y, Z. And so I drew from that future version of myself, studied extremely hard because I was focused on the new me instead of the old me who had failed before. And so I really, really encourage you guys to start noticing when you're drawing from the past to make future determinations or projections. Because you are God's highest form of creation. And I am super excited to see your results and the life that you create for yourself. Start using these I am affirmations, and I love you from my heart to yours. Cheers, and subscribe. Helps with the algorithm.